Oh, I'm just registering now. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. How's life?
Yes, everything okay. Thank you, Nico. Welcome to the French Toy Rendezvous number 16. Very happy to receive you. We don't know each other, Nico, but I know
No.
you, by name and by LinkedIn and by the shows, and I'm very happy to receive you for different reasons. First, I'm reading your post. That's a good thing.
Mhm. Thank you.
I enjoy a lot what you are writing about the fairs, about the market, the way you see the things in a very direct way, which I appreciate a lot. And
Mhm.
even some posts are very funny because you have a lot of sense of humor. And I always have a good laugh with you.
Yeah.
So that's why, I was very happy that to meet with you on this Zoom link and
Thank you.
to know a bit more about you, and to talk about what you have done, and the business a bit later. But let's start by you. Let's start about the young Nico. Who is
Yeah.
Nico? Where have you been living? What have you been doing? Studying? Your passions?
Okay.
Playing with toys?
Oh, okay. I was born in the United States, funny enough.
Oh, you're American.
Yeah, I was born in 1971 in Texas. But my parents are Dutch.
Your
So
parents are Dutch. Okay.
my father was an expat who moved from the Netherlands to the United States together with my mother in 1968. And I was born there like my younger brother and sister. And my parents decided to move back to the Pays-Bas.
Yes.
And I think it was 1977. And
Okay.
since then, I grew up in the Netherlands. I have dual citizenship. So I both an
So in
American.
which town are you living?
In the Netherlands,
Yes.
in a nice city called Apeldoorn.
Okay.
Uh, and Apeldoorn is, I would say, an hour southeast from Amsterdam by car. And
Apeldoorn. I know the name. There is a train station there. Yeah. I know
there's
by
a
train stations.
there's a train station. The royal family has their summer palace here.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a nice city that I know. Yeah, in my time when I was in Back Toys, I
yeah,
know some people were living
yeah,
there. So okay.
yeah. So that's where I live now, and that's also where the company is based or has its European headquarters.
Okay.
I grew up. I studied. I have a business administration degree or BA degree in hospitality management.
So before going to that, Nico, because you're a bit old now. Let's go back to the childhood and
Sure.
what were you playing when you were young? Because you are
Oh,
in the toy business. So what were you playing?
well, I was more an outdoor kid
Outdoor.
than necessarily. I had toys, obviously. I think my first toys were Fisher Price toys, I guess. I think
Mhm.
we still have them from those days. I Mr. Potato Head. I
Mr.
had a
Potato, yeah.
I had a big wheel,
Yeah.
which was in all my friends in Texas in the neighborhood had a big wheel.
Yeah.
So we were doing races on the streets.
Yeah.
Um, I think my first action figure was the $6 Million Man.
Yeah.
It was very cool because it had all these, what is it, computer accessories built into his arm.
Yes.
Uh, that was very very nice. Um, but I was playing a lot outside. I
Yeah.
loved
Outside. I
I
understand.
loved, I
It
loved
was
playing.
the timing of being outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and in Texas, we lived, obviously, with the temperatures that allowed us to spend a lot of time outside as well.
Sure.
So,
Mhm.
yeah. Um, but yeah, when we moved back to the Netherlands, obviously, I had to learn the Dutch language.
Yes.
The, and also in the Netherlands, I found out that a lot of the play was done outside. Playing football, hide and seek, tennis on the streets, bicycling.
So
Um,
what are your hobbies or activities you were doing, or what do you like?
Nowadays, you
Or I don't
mean?
know, in your life, is there anything
No,
special that you like?
I'm a big fan of sports,
Yes.
football, cycling, skiing. That's what I really love to do. And I've always done that, and I still do. I still play football till this very day in the
Yeah.
old league, as we call it.
Mhm.
So that has actually always remained. So my biggest passion is actually sports.
Okay, you're a sports guy. Understand.
Yeah.
Cool. So you were talking about your studies. So you studied, sorry, an MBA. What did you say?
Actually, I study hospitality management. I wanted to get in the tourism business because of my father's job. We lived abroad. We traveled a lot, and I always was excited about being at in hotels or on airports. And I mean, whenever my dad had a big trade fair, he was in the agricultural business, so total different business. I loved also being at the fairs when I helped him out there. So I studied hospitality management. Then I worked a couple of years in the hotel industry, just to realize, as I like to say, that I was sitting on the wrong side of the bar. It was not my cup of tea at the end. And then I decided that I wanted to do something else. And so I was looking for actually initially to do something in sports,
Yes.
work for Nike or whatever. But everybody at that time wanted to work for Nike. It was not so easy.
Mhm.
A friend of mine worked for a recruitment company.
Yeah.
And I said, "Can you help me out?" He said, "What do you need? What do you want?" I said, "Listen, I like to, be as independent as possible.
Yes.
Prefer to work for an American company because of my background, and then, set up, whatever their business needs to be in Europe and pioneer for that." And then he basically said, "So you're looking for the impossible job
Oh.
uh, at your age of 26." I said, "Maybe, but that's what I want." He said, "Well, I don't think it's going to happen, but if something comes by, then I'll let you know."
Uh-huh.
3 weeks later, the phone rings and it's him again. And he says, "Nico, it's unbelievable, but I've been approached by an American company who's looking for somebody to pioneer and set up their business in Europe. And exactly what you were looking for." And I said, "Okay, who is that company?" I said, "This was in 1999.
Yeah.
And it's a company called Upper Deck."
Upper
And
deck.
Upper Deck is
That's
in
American. Mm.
cards, baseball cards, and quite frankly, I'd never heard of the company. Of course, I knew what baseball cards were, trading cards.
It's a competitor of Panini and all those people.
Panini and Topps.
And Tops. Tops for
Yeah,
America. Yeah.
yeah. And the reality was that they tried to break into the European market and compete with Panini.
Yeah.
But Panini had very strong relationships with the licensors. And it was very hard for Upper Deck to get good licenses. And at the end, they burned themselves.
Yeah.
But the owner of the company decided he wanted to wind down the company, but still have somebody represent the company in Europe.
Yeah.
And that's actually, after they interviewed me, I was called the next day and I had the job. It was as easy, as simple, and quick as that. And a week later, I was on an airplane for a 6-week training in the United States, where I had to learn about trading cards,
Yeah.
not the way Panini does them, but with valuable cards, rarities,
Yeah.
cards, autographs, and what have you. And that's basically how I kind of rolled into to what ultimately now for me is the toy industry.
Mm. I understand. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's the first experience, 99, Upper Deck. You're
Yeah.
running the sales in Europe. You try to develop. It's not easy because they
No,
don't have
but
licenses probably. It was
yeah.
more licensed in baseball and things like that, right?
Well, we started in America, they had all the American licenses, and in Europe, all the sports licenses. And in Europe, there was a market for NHL, for the ice hockey cards. There was a
NHL, yeah.
basketball market,
That's
specifically in
at that time,
Germany and in France,
NBA.
the NBA. So I had something to start with, but the first couple of years, I think, our turnover was maybe $300,000 to $500,000 in basically merchandise that almost nobody wanted,
Yeah,
unless it was hardcore. And then Pokemon came at the same time. And then I said to the Americans, I said, "Listen, if we want to get into this business and have something that's universal," because the problem with sports and football specifically is if you are a fan of, let's say, Paris Saint-Germain, you don't want to be associated with Marseille or
yeah, yeah.
Lyon. So it's very regional, and at competition, it can be very hard for a store in Marseille to show Paris Saint-Germain merchandise, and that's what we noticed a lot. So the thing about Pokemon, and then same for Disney, it's universal. Wherever the kids come from, they love it.
Yeah.
So we started to look more for entertainment properties, and the first time we basically had a big success was when we had a license with Lego Bionicle.
Okay.
For trading cards, and then from $300,000 a year, we did $3 million a year, just with a Lego trading card, and then that showed the company in America that was where we in Europe should be looking for, and then suddenly Yu-Gi-Oh came around the corner, Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game, and we after a long struggle managed to get the rights for Europe, and then we grew from 3 million to 120 million in a couple of years' time. And I had no experience. I had no experience with hiring people. I had no experience with, setting up offices, infrastructure. At least I little experience. So I had to learn it all from the get-go.
Yeah.
And when you have a property that is so hot like that, you're always 1 or 2 steps behind. So we had to set up organizations in Europe, open up offices, hire people, and thankfully the company in the United States had a lot of confidence in me, so they allowed me to make mistakes. They were there to help, and then ultimately we had a very successful infrastructure that was kind of every year generating the same amount of income, but it was a one-legged stool. So we totally depended on that trading card of Yu-Gi-Oh, even though we had a few other card games. But then I said, listen, let's get into toys. We're talking to the same buyers. Let's find distribution opportunities for companies that are seeking distribution in Europe. And that's how we got in touch with Jack Pacific, with Playmates, with Spin Master, and we were lucky enough to be with Spin Master at the time that they launched Tech Deck and Bakugan, and we had rights not for all European markets, but we had rights for certain European markets. So our toy division started growing very quick. So where we initially were relying for 85% on Yu-Gi-Oh, suddenly the Yu-Gi-Oh business was 50%. Then the toy distribution started kicking in. And then the next step that I said is, okay, let's start developing our own toys, because we're very depending on what others bring us.
Yeah.
And today it's great, tomorrow it may be nothing. And then, we started, I hired somebody, Gregory Benazar, who works with Asmodee now, to be my inventors relations person. And we hired some toy designers and what have you. And then we started developing our own toys. With one property that was in very early stage of development that caught the eye of Hasbro. So we showed it at the Toy Fair in Nuremberg in 2010, and it was a huge success. And it turned out that Hasbro was trying to build something similar, but they were way behind. But Brian Goldner wanted to make movies around it, and they had a whole plan for it. So they approached me and said, "Can we buy your concept?" So I spent some time with them in New York, and then from New York Toy Fair, I went to Boston. I spent 2 weeks there, and then we sold it for a huge amount of money, that property. So we never launched it, and quite frankly, they never successfully launched it themselves. They decided to do the typical thing, not take what we did really well, but bring in their own people and their own ideas, and the quality was not good. So totally failed. But for us at that time in Upper Deck, it was a very important financial impulse, because we were having huge problems at that time, because the Upper Deck company in the United States decided to counterfeit the Yu-Gi-Oh cards. You may have heard of it. But for some stupid reason, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, the owner was sitting on a lot of inventory of Yu-Gi-Oh. And that time was a little bit slow. and Upper Deck controlled the printing plates. And they took a few of the very rare cards and they went to China and produced those behind the back of Konami in a factory. And the whole purpose was, well, we will bundle all the inventory that we have, and then we put that special card in there as a bonus, and that will help us to move the inventory. And because Konami apparently refused to help Upper Deck to solve the inventory problem. Which did not justify Upper Deck to do this at all, but they did, and it was done so poorly. It was a card that was only produced for 5,000 pieces, and I think Upper Deck produced that card in 60,000 pieces. And that card had the gold foil. The original card had a gold foil, and for some reason, the card they copied was having a silver foil.
Okay.
So that, quite frankly, was never launched. They created at the end a new card, and of course they sold it to, I think, Toys R Us at the time, and maybe to Walmart, Target, and it helped to reduce the inventory. But then consumers were saying, "Hey, this card, we have never seen this before. This is a card that does not exist." And they went to Konami, and then Konami found out.
Okay.
And they went after Upper Deck, and we were not involved or nor informed, but suddenly we got a letter that they canceled the contract with us, just like that. And then there was a whole blah blah. At the end, we had to, legal fights between Upper Deck Europe and Upper Deck America because Upper Deck America owed us money. I ended up in a fight as a small shareholder with the owner of the company. We won all the cases, but at the end, we were left with nothing. The only option at that time was to say, okay, let's close the company, Upper Deck. In Europe.
So how long was this adventure with Upper Deck? How many years?
I was there for 13 years, and of which the last 3 years I was dealing with legal fights.
I understand. 13 years with 3 years of legal fight. Okay.
Yeah, and then I said to myself, whatever the next venture is, I'm going to start my own business.
You want to be an entrepreneur. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then in 2012 we closed Upper Deck, and a couple of weeks later I started Big on Toy Innovation, what we call BOTI today. So
BOTI is your own company. Are you alone?
No, I have co-shareholders in the company.
Financial or operational?
Actually, it's more strategic. It's a company called Goodmark, who's based in Belgium. I got to meet the owner. We get along. I told him my plan, and he said, "Hey, that's interesting. You have to understand, this is in 2012, 2013. This is in the aftermath of the crisis, the financial crisis, and banks were not there to loan money, or at least not a lot. And I lost a lot of money because of all the court fights that I was in, because I was also personally attacked in those days. So I had limited resources, and this gentleman, Mr. Stefan Volke, decided that he was interested in this, and he participated in the company.
Okay, but you run the company, operational leads you. Okay.
No, yeah. So yeah, he's a silent shareholder in that case, yes.
Good. So 11 years ago now. So
we're actually 11 years ago.
So what have you done in 11 years? What were the steps you wanted to go?
Well, the interesting thing was that I was used, of course, when I started Upper Deck in Europe, I was on my own in my little office in my Amsterdam home at that time. So I was used to doing everything myself. But at the end, by Upper Deck, I was running everything outside of North America, and we had, I think, 180 people, offices everywhere. And I was more managing people at that time and processes. And I had to get used to starting from scratch, doing everything myself. And in hindsight, it would have probably been better if I would have taken a month or a year a sabbatical and then work, because I really don't remember much of that first year. And that's also where, maybe not so smart decisions were made by myself. It was still like 2014. It took till 2014 to see some results coming out of the company. And the company had two functions: a product development out of our Hong Kong. We had BOTI Hong Kong. For product development and global distribution. And then BOTI Europe was our distribution arm for the Benelux and German market. And
Benelux and DACH mainly. Okay.
Not only for our own products, the idea was to generate money and cash out of selling distribution lines. So, it was started with Basic Fun, Moose, a couple of other companies that came along with us from the Upper Deck days, who gave us a little bit of, flexibility to start our business in Benelux and Germany. So we were there when Little Life Pets was launched from Moose, which was our first major success. But we also did, products like Spirograph and Knex that specifically in the Benelux were very popular at that time. And it generated some income for us and some cash flow. And that helped actually also to fund our initiatives in Hong Kong. Now, if you start developing your own products, the odds that something succeeds may be 20%. So you have to reckon that you need 5 attempts to have one successful product. And our first 4 attempts were a failure. So we lost a lot of money there. But the 5th was a success. Quite frankly, helped us to get global distribution and awareness. And since then, we've been on a very nice run. So we're spending.
So what's the company now in 23? How many are you? Where are you?
But I never want to go back to hundreds of people. I keep it very small and lean. We have between BOTI Hong Kong and BOTI Europe, 16 people, 16.
Okay.
And
which markets are you? Are you in all Europe?
For BOTI Europe, we distribute in the Benelux, Germany, and since last year also in France.
So we're going to talk about that. Okay, so you were more focusing Benelux and let's say DACH, and now I know that for 18 months or 12 months you started in France, right, with your own operation.
Yeah, actually, exactly 12 months ago. So
in Deauville, no? In Deauville 22 or?
Deauville 22 was the first introduction of our company, but at that time we had no French employees. We did through Goodmark and to our Belgian manager. But then we managed to hire Mustafa Sitouni, who used to work for Upper Deck in my early days and then moved to Spin Master. And he is now, as of February last year, he's now in charge of building our French operation.
Okay, so you had another Deauville in 23.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. It's not an easy time for the French market, like everywhere. But
It's like 2012. I started in the most difficult time, and now we're repeating it again in France. The reason that we opened up France is for a couple of reasons. We noticed ourselves for our own product development that we had a very hard time finding distributors in France. There are very few left.
Yeah.
And you had choices. Then it kind of Lancé at some point was the only one kind of left in doing third-party distribution, and to a lesser extent it was maybe Bandai. And then I said, listen, if we ever want to launch our own Dr. Squish or whatever in France, we need to do that ourselves. And Goodmark had the infrastructure because they had the listings and what have you, and the back office. So it was a logical step for us to do. The other thing that we also noticed that we were, in getting the Benelux and German distribution rights for properties like, let's say, Pokemon or Ninja Turtles, we always had a struggle to deal with the French companies who wanted to have the Benelux.
Yeah.
So we were competing basically about Belgium. It was always about Belgium. And then I said, listen, I'm tired of this. The only way we can get out of this is that we just start our own French infrastructure operation. Yeah. So those were the 2 main reasons for us.
Okay, very good. So what about France, the country, Nico? What do you like? What do you enjoy? Do you come on holidays? What do you don't like?
Well, we have a family house in Port Barcarès.
You enjoy this area. Okay.
Yeah, so we go there mostly once a year. So in the summertime, sometimes more often if there's an opportunity. And it's a house at the beach. So we're not in the tourist area. We're actually living in the amongst the locals, which is very nice. And we trade a lot. I don't speak much French, but I always have great conversations with my French neighbors who don't speak English. So for somehow we
So you have a good
communicate
time.
with a beer or a wine, and it's always a lot
Everything
of
is perfect.
yeah, no, we talk like but
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. France is, obviously, I'm not telling anything new. It's from a culture perspective, from the nature, food, wine. It's a fantastic country.
You have a good time. Okay.
Yeah. For the
And where
business,
else have you been?
where else I've been? I've been in France.
Yes, I don't know the
Yeah,
areas that you like
I've been in many
visiting.
places. I've climbed the Mont Ventoux on my bicycle.
Mont Ventoux, okay, which is not easy. Okay.
And I will never do it again. These were the darkest hours of my life.
Yeah.
So I like cycling, but I'm not a good climber. So this year I will do the Alpe d'Huez.
You want to do Alpe d'Huez?
Yeah, it's for a good for the charity.
There are 5 meters snow now in l'Alpe d'Huez.
Yes. Well, I'll do it in June. But they call it the Alpe d'Huez, and d'Huez means 6 in Holland. And the goal is to climb it 6 times in a day.
Wow.
And goes to the benefit of children that are suffering from cancer.
Okay.
But I'll be happy if I can do it twice. No, I've been Cannes, Nice. Cannes, I've been actually almost every year. I go to the MIPCOM or the MIP TV.
Yeah. To the show.
Nice, Lille. I've been in so many. I've been skiing in the Alps.
Like skiing there, yeah, okay. If you're a ski man, you probably find your way. Some good results.
I've been in the Dordogne, in the Bordeaux. I've been on the Atlantic coast, Normandy, you name it. So there's few places that I've seen most of the country, I would say.
Yeah. Okay, very good, very interesting. Okay, Nico, thanks a lot for that. So, little tradition to end the show, with me, it's I call it you choose. You can do whatever you want, but we're going to end the show. And I will see you with pleasure. We say hello in Nuremberg next week.
Yeah, please come to Hall 12, F4.
I will say hello, yeah. I will be in Hall 12. I'm working with RMS in Hall 12.
Yeah. Okay, you are more than welcome.
Yeah, and I've been working with Dutch people for a long time.
I'm sorry for you.
No, you have a good time, no problem.
No. What do you think about the Dutch?
Very direct.
Very direct.
Always, and they are their way of being. I work for. I've been traveling to Holland for more than 25 years, and always good connections, and some nice people. I have very good remembers of Bergtoys, where I was 8 years. With very nice people, which I see with a lot of pleasure, and even other people that I know, always nice to go there. Business people.
I enjoyed going to France. I enjoyed trying to, doing the business around. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
You really need a French person to do your French business, is my experience. As much as you need Germans to do your German business. And for us Dutch, we believe we understand everything, we know everything, we travel the world. But at the end, when it comes down to the detail and the fine-tuning, I still see that, local people deal best with the local companies.
Sure, I totally agree, especially for the big ones, UK, Germany, and France, you need local.
Yeah, and
find your way.
So most of us started in a very difficult time in France.
Yes.
Not easy, and I told them to be patient, and we'll be fine.
I know what you are saying. I am on my own. I started in June 21, between the third and fourth wave of COVID, and I know it's not easy. I started from zero.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, it's not an easy one, but you can do things. You have to be patient.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And you have to work hard. Yeah. And being seen, in fairs, and use LinkedIn a lot, and being connected with people.
Yeah, I think our industry is for in very our toy industry is going to see is going to be going to another big transition, is my expectation. So unfortunately, this will go at the expense of a lot of the specialist toy stores. It is what it is. But yeah, it's interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen in the next 2 to 4 years.
Yes, it's going to change a lot with the categories, with the kid art, with the environment, the distribution. A lot of things are changing.
We have a huge success at the moment, and we're trying to explain it to buyers. It's hard. Is with the and I know you want to end the show because of the time, but we see a lot of we have a huge success at the moment in Germany and the Benelux specifically, and we're now bringing it to France with Roblox driven merchandise. And it's amazing the amount of product we sell in a week time for those people that put it on the shelf in their stores without any marketing. I've never seen before. Never seen it. And I've done Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Bakugan. I've done those all. We put it on the shelf mid-December, and we have stores selling 40, 50 pieces a week in the first week of January, February, and first weeks of January. And I see this as a total new consumer base. And for a buyer, it's hard to understand. Why? It's not a movie, it's not TV. It's you hear of properties like Block Fruit or Rainbow Friends that you have never heard before till you start asking your kids. And then you find out they've been playing it already for a year. So that's where I see a lot of the business going to in the next couple of years.
Very good. Okay, Nico, thanks a lot. See you next week. I will come to say hello, so we know personally. Yes. And it was the French Toy Rendez-Vous number 16. Yeah. And nice to meet you.
À bientôt.
Au revoir, monsieur.
Au revoir. Merci. 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 Thank you.